Spirit for our opening hymn. Rank by rank we stand again. Those outside, stop taking names and come on in. We can get tickets, sign in later. I do want to let anybody know there are like 3 rows of wide open seats right in the front. I mean, wide open. You can pick any seat in the row here. Come on down. I feel like, let's make a deal. Come on down. Seriously. Maybe if you're a long-term member, you'll feel more comfortable sitting up front. I won't call on anybody, I promise. No questions or tests or anything. Only the test that is in your heart, I would say. Okay. I am Reverend J. Wolin, settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalist of Sarasota. I'm here all week, folks. Okay. We especially want to welcome all of you, but especially visitors who are here. Let them know that they are welcome to participate in any of our events. They are even welcome to attend our annual meeting. They just can't vote. Anyone who has been a member for longer than 60 days are eligible voting members. But we do invite you to participate in any of our events. You can register on our virtual guest book, which you can find at uusrq.org or right outside at the welcome table. If you do so, you'll get a weekly email with all the events that are happening, as well as Zoom links for online events. And then most Sundays, I'm sure we still will have coffee and snacks after the service, but you're always welcome to join us there. Today, we will have probably more people coming to our annual meeting after, which is what I want to let you know is happening next. After the service, we ask all our members to attend the annual meeting of both the endowment, that's a shorter one, and then the Unitarian Universalist of Sarasota annual meeting. This is where members use the democratic process to vote. We do need a quorum, so we do ask you, if you've not already gotten your blue card, I don't know if you have your blue card. I had my blue card. I don't know what I did with it, so don't lose your blue card. There we go. Okay. If you have not gotten one, you remember, after the service, there'll be a table right outside the sanctuary, and you can sign in. This way we know we have a quorum, and then you can vote on things like our budget, new board, nominating committee, and we do have a bylaw change up for discussion today. Okay, one more message from Rita Meach. from about the flea market. We had a very, very successful flea market, so you can give Rita. But Rita wanted me to let everybody know that a group of fleas is actually called a swarm, and to point out that there were many others who helped. So if your name is called, and if I pronounce it wrong, I blame Rita for that. No, I'm sorry, I may have gotten it down. So for the boutique, if you hear your name, Mitzi and Feroza. Furniture, Marie, please stand if your name is called. The books, the two Eds, so I'm not quite sure who that is. Please stand. Sanctuary, working on Sanctuary was Amy, Shirley, Barb, Jane, Marilyn, Lisa. Any of you that are here today, please stand up. Most of them are probably still tired from 2 weeks ago. No, we're not done yet. We are not done yet. I don't know what blood and food is, but I know what food is. I don't know what blood is. John Yoda, Denise Barth, and Mike Brooks. Decor, Chris Van Antwerp. Stan, Bake Sale, Mary Fran. Bank and Foy. Debbie, Jill, Mary, Eric, Nancy, Catherine, The Pod, Allison. If any of you, if I'm named your name, please stand up. I know you are here. Stay standing. Stay standing, please. Stay standing. I want people to get a visualization of how many people participated in this. Deliveries, Nina, Margie, Eric, Henry, Cleanup, Bill, I'm assuming that's Peyton, John Yoda, you get to stand up like on top of yourself. Anybody who purchased anything, stand up. Stand up. Anybody who gave anything, stand up. Okay, look around. Yeah, look around. How much all of us make this happen. It's not just one person, it's all of us. So thank you. Let's all give ourselves one big round of applause. And so now, after all that excitement, let us welcome to our stage Tom Ellison, who will share his gift of music with us.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered near and far, very far, over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, one magic day, he came my way. Thank you. And as we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever know is just to love and be loved in return. And then one day, one magical day, he came my way. And as we spoke of many things, of fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing we'll ever learn is just to love and love in return. Thank you.
Thank you. Our opening words are from Joseph Campbell, entitled Follow Your Bliss. I do know what bliss is, a deep sense of being present, of doing what you can absolutely must do to be yourself. If you hang on to that, you are on the edge of the transcendent already. Your bliss can guide you to that transcendent mystery, because bliss is the welling up of the energy of the transcendent wisdom that is within you. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you, and the life that you ought to be living. It is a one that you are living. And when you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in the field of your bliss, and they open doors to you. I say follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. If you follow your bliss, doors will open for you that you wouldn't know, that wouldn't have opened for anyone else. And so now, as we light our chalice, let its light show us the way on the path to our bliss. As we light the chalice, join me in affirming our value of interdependence, which will be on the screen behind me. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships.
So, if I'm on, am I on? Okay, great. Today's story is The Empty Pot, a Chinese tale adapted and illustrated by Demi. A long time ago in China, there was a boy named Ping who loved flowers. Anything he planted just burst into bloom. Up came flowers and bushes and even big fruit trees, as if by magic. Everyone in the kingdom loved flowers too. They planted them everywhere, and the air smelled like perfume. The emperor loved birds and animals, but the flowers most of all, and he tended his own garden every day. But the emperor was very old, and he needed to choose a successor to the throne. Who would this successor be, and how would the emperor choose? Because the emperor loved flowers so much, he decided to let the flowers choose. So the next day, a proclamation was issued, and all the children in the land were to come to the palace. They were to be given special flower seeds by the emperor. And whoever can show me their best in a year's time, he said, will succeed me to the throne. So the news created great excitement throughout the land. Children from all over the country swarmed to the palace to get their flower seeds. All the parents wanted their children to be chosen emperor, and all the children hoped that they would be chosen too. When Ping received his seed from the emperor, he was the happiest child of all. He was sure he could grow the most beautiful flower. Ping filled the flower pot with rich soil. He planted to see if it would grow, and he planted the seed very carefully. He watered it every day. He couldn't wait for it to sprout, to grow, and to blossom into a beautiful flower. But day after day passed, and nothing grew in the pot. Ping was very worried. He put new soil in a bigger pot, and then he transferred the seed into the rich black soil. Another 2 months he waited, and still nothing happened. By and by, the whole year passed. Spring came, and all the children put on their best clothes to greet the emperor. They rushed to the palace with their beautiful flowers, eagerly hoping to be chosen. Well, Ping was ashamed of his empty pot. He thought the other children would laugh at him because, for once, he could not get a flower to grow. His clever friend ran by holding a great big plant. "Ping," he said, "you're not really going to go to the emperor with an empty pot, are you? Couldn't you grow a great big flower like mine?" "I've grown lots of flowers better than yours," Ping said. "It's just that this seed won't grow." Ping's father overheard this, and he said, "You did your best, and your best is good enough to present to the emperor." So holding the empty pot in his hands, Ping went straight away to the palace. The emperor was looking over all the flowers slowly, one by one. How beautiful all the flowers were. But the emperor was frowning and did not say a word. Finally, he came to Ping, and Ping hung his head in shame, expecting to be punished. The emperor asked him, "Why did you bring an empty pot?" Ping started to cry, and he replied, "I planted the seed you gave me, and I watered it every day, but it didn't sprout. I put it in a better pot with better soil, and it still didn't sprout. I tended it all year long, but nothing grew. So today, I had to bring an empty pot without a flower. It was the best I could do." Well, when the emperor heard these words, a smile slowly spread over his face, and he put his arm around Ping, and then he exclaimed to one and all, "I have found him. I have found the one person worthy to be emperor. Where you got your seeds from," as he looked out at the crowd, "I do not know, for the seeds I gave you had all been cooked, so it was impossible for any of them to grow. I admire Ping's great courage to appear me with the empty truth, and now I reward him with my entire kingdom and make him emperor of all the land." And so it was done. Ping ruled wisely, and under his reign the kingdom prospered. He kept the empty pot on his desk to remind him and his advisors that honesty and integrity should be at the heart of all of their actions and their words. In the quest to become the next emperor, it seemed easy for the children and their parents to tell a white lie, one that didn't seem to hurt anyone. Yet, if you are not truthful in the small things, how can we trust you to be truthful in the big things, the life and death things, the things that may benefit you but are harmful to me? Trust is important if we are all to live and survive together. So I now invite children and youth who'd like to learn more about Ramadan and the feast of Eid ul-Fitr to come with me and Miss Julie to the West Wing. Thank you.
Our centering in words today are from Jan Richardson, Blessing for the Broken-Hearted. Let us agree for now that we will not say the breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Let us promise we will not tell ourselves time will heal all wounds, when every day our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for now it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating as if it were made for precisely this, as if it knows the only cure for love is more of it, as if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still, as if it trusts that its own persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless. As we go into a time of silence, let us contemplate what has broken our heart and what it is that we still love. So following your bliss requires us to trust the universe. This can be a very hard thing to do. It takes risk. In my household growing up, I was actually taught not to trust. No, that's right. I was taught from a very young age an incessant invective to, and I quote, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Now, when I became a teenager, and yes, it's true, I was a little bit of a smart aleck. Once after my mother said this to me, I said, oh, so should I not believe what you just said about not believing what you hear, so therefore I should believe in everything that I hear? And so my mother was not an intentional Zen master, and she gave me one of those looks like, you gotta be kidding me, and don't say one more word but not come out of your mouth, young man. And I did. Now, on the one hand, it did teach me to be very independently minded, critical thinking person. But on the other hand, it led me to be suspicious of people in the environment that I lived in. And there were in that environment people who were constantly trying to take advantage of me and anyone they could come in contact with. And after enough times of experiencing it, this type of thing starts to become second nature. So I want you to know, if I ever get an email from a Nigerian prince or a phone call from someone saying they're from the IRS and I owe them money, I am automatically suspicious. And please, I tell you, if you ever get an email from me saying I need a gift card, please know I am never going to ask you for that. It seems like one of those comes out once a week nowadays. So it's easy to build up distrust, right? So, you know, it is not a surprise. I just should say this. In my early career, before I was a minister, at first, after college, I was an auditor whose job it was to uncover fraud in businesses, right? So that, you know, not trusting just sort of got built in there. After dealing and uncovering many frauds by many businesses, I started to become numb to the concept of trust. Yeah, in truth, where I grew up in the Bronx, if you trusted the wrong person, you could end up dead. I mean, that's literally true. So I kept a small circle of friends who I knew I could trust, and they are still today my best friends that I have, and we still actually keep in touch. Now with Zoom, even easier. But the other side of that, when you don't trust somebody, you can, or people in general, you can become an untrustworthy person because you are not in relationship, right? So, you know, just a short example, I would come home late at night and my parents would ask me where I'd been. And, you know, so I didn't say, well, you know, I was out at the bar underage drinking, and then we sort of just roamed the streets aimlessly for a while before we got into some other misadventures, which I probably shouldn't tell you about. No, I did not say that. I said I went to a friend's house, someone I knew they didn't know, so they could never check up on me. Right, so here's the thing, though. When you stop becoming trustworthy, you stop believing in yourself, right? You stop believing in what is possible. If everything's a lie, then what's real, right? And so not trusting people can lead you to a very lonely, isolated, and limited life. Always on your guard, always suspecting the worst of people, always living fearfully. And I will say, Unitarian Universalism and its gospel of hope and inclusion changed me for the better in this way. It also helped I got out of the Bronx and met other people who were actually very trustworthy people. You know, it's often the environment we live in creates who we are. But I will say this, Unitarian Universalism helped me connect with my inner life and with others, right? It showed me a view of the world that could be. And if I was willing to be vulnerable and work for change in myself and change in the world, if I was willing to risk the safe, then change could happen. The Persian poet Rumi wrote, "You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings," metaphorically, "and you are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly," metaphorically, end quote. I add the metaphorically. That was not in the poem. I don't want anybody thinking they should try and fly, unless they are a pilot in a plane. As children, right, though, we crawl and we are dependent on others. And we have to trust the people we are dependent on because our survival is dependent on them, right? And the world often just sweeps us along for a while, as if we are powerless to change ourselves in the world. And at some point in our life, hopefully we find our own way, and we find the people and some of the institutions we interact with, ones that we trusted, were not always right or aren't aligned with our view of the world, right? So the result of that, sometimes then we lose trust in these people or institutions, and sometimes we can lose trust then in our own judgment. But the truth is that we can choose to trust. We can realize the imperfectibility of each person and each institution. Nobody is perfect. And so we tend to have this idea of perfection. When anybody fails to reach that highest level, we often just eliminate anything that's positive then. But we do not have to be weighed down by this realization of the reality of our pasts, right? We can realize that everyone, including ourselves, is imperfect, right? And as we gain experiences, we can see the consequences of our action over time. And we can plant new seeds, right? Grow new roots that keep us grounded, right? Both metaphorically, we can grow seeds and grow beautiful plants, but the seed within us of compassion, of hope, of love, we can choose to live in a way that is aligned with those values. And we can see ourselves then as interdependent and a part of the universe, right? And thus, what we do and how we decide to live can change ourselves in the world. And I can say when I started to do this, when I learned to trust my judgment and believe in the possibilities of life, the universe did open doors for me. Once I had a better idea of who I was and what my values were, and that's really important, right? I became more comfortable and less threatened by the world. Right? I stopped worrying about what others thought of me. And I learned to trust myself. And in so doing, I became trustworthy, right? And then I opened myself to trusting others in the universe. And it doesn't mean that everything's always going to be hunky-dory, but by learning to trust myself and others, right, I have learned that alongside the suffering in life, there can be joys, and we can choose to open ourselves up to all of them. You don't get to eliminate the suffering and only have the joys. But if you try to eliminate suffering, you also will eliminate the joys. So I still don't take wooden nickels from people, which is what my grandfather told me not to do, though I have never ever seen a wooden nickel in my life, and no one has ever tried to give me one. I keep waiting for somebody to give me a wooden nickel, so I say, I don't take wooden nickels. But no. So I learned though, right, by tapping into my ideals and dreams, I learned to fly, right? I learned to risk saying yes. And in doing so, I found my bliss. Not bliss in where everything is perfect, but bliss in a life well lived, living a fulfilling life. And not that everything that befalls us in life has a purpose, but we can choose to live a purposeful life. So I trust that what I say here is listened to. I trust the decisions I make with input from all, and I trust that you will trust me and your leadership, which you will be voting on today. And lastly, I trust that you will be generous as we come around with the baskets for the offering. Sometimes my trust is right, and sometimes it's not, but we'll find out. So please be as generous as you can. For those of you online or here on your cell phone, there's a description, a link in the YouTube video, or there's a QR code in the order of service. Let this sacred time begin. My next reading is from one of my Buddhist teachers, Roshi Joan Halifax, from her book, Standing on the Edge. All too often, our so-called strength comes from fear, not love. Instead of having a strong back, many of us have a defended front, shielding a weak spine. In other words, we walk around brittle and defensive, trying to conceal our lack of confidence. If we strengthen our backs, metaphorically speaking, and develop a spine that's flexible but sturdy, then we can risk having a front that's soft and open. How can we give and accept care with a strong back, soft front, compassion, moving past fear into a place of genuine tenderness? I believe it comes about when we can be truly transparent, seeing the world clearly and letting the world see into us. And now one last time, The Gift of Music by Tom Ellison. Now, in my last reflection, I touched on a personal trust, but how does that relate to a congregational setting? In our Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, just prior to listing the values, it says, and I quote, "As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love," end quote. Promising not just to help each other as individuals, but to help each other as congregations. It is why we as ministers cover for each other when another is on sabbatical or paternity leave. It's why I, as well as some of our members, preach at smaller, nearby UU congregations that do not have ministers, because that is what we have agreed to by being part of the association, helping each other, not just each other, but each congregation. So also just to think about what we call our leaders of this congregation, we call them trustees, because we trust them to lead the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota. Each of us as members in our various ministries in the congregation as well requires us to trust each other. Right? This can be difficult when different people have different styles of leadership and workings in groups. You know, I over the years attended many leadership trainings, but there was one I thought was interesting. It broke down leadership into 4 styles: action, analytical, vision, and empathy. And each style has its own traits. And, you know, it's true that each of us has some of those traits in all of us, but many people are stronger in one style versus another. And so it's important to understand each of our styles as well as the styles of those that we are working with. So a very 30,000-foot level, the visionary style tends to look at the big picture with the eye on the future. The analytical style focuses more on details and processes, and you know who you are. And the empathetic leader tends to want to make sure everybody's voice is heard and is more feelings-based. And the action-oriented leader just wants to get things done. We have a lot of those here. And it is not that one style is better or worse than the other, but each style addresses issues from different perspectives. Although some leaders feel suited for certain roles than others, each style can be complementary to each other. And here's the important point: it only works if we are open to trusting each other. If we trust each other, that if we disagree with something, we will be listened to and respected. And I want to tell you, I see that modeled on our board all the time. And I think that is a beautiful thing, and one of the reasons why we are successful in what we are doing. If we trust each other, we will be open to seeing things differently. If we trust each other, we have to have faith that even though not everything will always go our way, we want it to go or think it should go, we believe in this congregation and its mission and its vision and its people. Right? We believe in our fellow congregants, and if we work together, we can move towards bringing our mission and vision towards its fruition. It's always going to be elusive, but we keep working and walking towards it. And if something doesn't work, then we will try something else, right? So how do we create that kind of trust? And in her book, Braving the Wilderness, Brene Brown, who I really enjoy many of her books, calls trust braving connection with someone else. And this is what gives someone the feeling of true belonging. Right? She discusses the 7 elements of trust using the acronym BRAVING: boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. And so I'm just going to quote or paraphrase a little from the book here. Boundaries, that we respect each other's boundaries. Different people have different lives, different responsibilities about what is okay and what is not. And if you are unsure, you should ask, and as well, you should be willing to tell people what your boundaries are and not just say yes all the time. Reliability. We build trust by consistently doing what we say we are going to do, and understanding our limits. I often say I don't know my limits until after I've passed them, and that's true. And understanding the competing priorities of our commitments to the congregation and elsewhere. Accountability. If you make a mistake, you have to be willing to own it, apologize, and make amends. Vault. Well, if I'm honest, I think that word was just created to fit the acronym. But what she means by that is holding confidences, sharing only what you have been given permission to share, and not sharing rumors or information that causes harm. Do no harm is always, I think, the first rule of trust. Integrity. Brown defines this as choosing courage over comfort, choosing what's right over what's fun, fast, or easy. Practicing your values, not just professing them. Now, this to me is very important. It's actually walking our walk, and we do that in abundance here. Non-judgment. We can ask each other for what we need without judgment. This is being able to admit what we don't know, right? And ask without feeling embarrassed, right? To ask about not knowing and making someone else embarrassed that they don't know it, right? We don't want to do that, right? We want to be open about the things that we don't know. In our diversity, let us be generous with our knowledge, our wisdom, understanding that we all come from different backgrounds. I understand probably very few of you grew up in the Bronx in the 1970s. You have no idea of what made me who I was, right? And so the last one, generosity, to assume the most generous things about someone's words, intentions, and behaviors, and check in with someone if they say something that you think is inappropriate. I think that is the most important thing to building trust, not just stirring about it for like 2 years and then bringing it up. And I would add, though, there is a difference between intention and impact. We should try to be sensitive about what we say and do so as not to cause harm. But we are humans, as I said earlier. We are imperfect. We're going to make mistakes. So let us understand that different people are on different paths or on different parts of the path. And in a pluralistic environment, we are going to have different opinions. So let us be gentle with each other. When someone tells you something you disagree with or feel is wrong, let curiosity lead you. Let compassion lead you. Look to our mission, connecting in loving community to nurture the spirit and help heal our world. Are you nurturing your spirit or others' spirits in all of your actions? Now, we are going through, and we are going to continue to go through difficult times in this country. So let us live with a love for each other that will not let each other go. Let us trust each other. May it be so. I invite you to rise and by the Andor Spirit for our closing hymn, Lean on Me. Sing it loud. Sing it with gusto. When the harsh winds blow and the way is not always clear, put your best foot forward and hold on tight. Hold on to your beliefs. Hold on to your integrity, to your openness to change, and most of all, in the midst of uncertainty, hold on to and trust each other. Please join me now in extinguishing the chalice, the words of which are already up on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Okay, now is the moment of the annual meeting. We're going to ask you if you haven't gotten your blue card, so please go out. We have to fix up Zoom, so it'll take about 5 minutes or so. Go get a cup of coffee, go get your blue card, sign it if you haven't. And thank you. Go forth, trust, be good.